What's up, everybody? Welcome to my first video. This video is going to cover Stranger Things, and specifically which characters are most and least likely to die in Stranger Things Season 5, which is the last season. So here you see the tier list. It goes from completely safe, pretty safe, moderately safe, not safe, and going to die, at least in my estimation. So the further up the list, the more danger they are in. Spoiler alerts ahead. To get into it here, Dr. Owens, the last time we see him really is in that underground bomb shelter. He's handcuffed, begging the military to not kill 11. And we really don't know where he ends up. Don't know what danger he may or may not have been in at the end of Season 4. Assuming he's still alive, of course. So, given that we don't know his whereabouts at the end of Season 4 even, I'm going to put him in pretty safe, but I don't think his death would have enough of an emotional pull for him to die in Season 5. That's why I really don't see him being in that much danger. The next character is Dimitri, or if you know him by Enzo. Dimitri also doesn't have his whereabouts shown at the end of Season 4, which was a little frustrating. Him and Murray didn't really get an ending at the end of the season. But I thought he was in danger at the end of Season 4. I really thought he was going to die, quite honestly. But now I kind of see him being out of that danger. He had all that talk about how he needed to be a hero so that his son didn't think he was a traitor anymore, and things of that nature. But I think now that they've escaped the threat in Russia, I don't really see him being a factor enough for him to die this season. Once again, not a strong enough emotional pull there. So I'm going to put him in pretty safe as well. Only reason not completely safe is because he's Hopper's friend, he's Murray's friend. They've been in the midst of the action lately, and maybe he could get caught up in something and die there, but I don't see it happen, quite honestly. The next character is Max. Of course, in Season 4, we leave off with her in a coma, her body all braced up because she died and then was brought back to life by 11. And honestly, don't know much about Max. I can say I don't think they made her go through those torturous events she had to go through in Season 4 just to wake her back up in Season 5 and then kill her again. So I don't see Max dying at the end of the season, but I do think it's going to be another rough season for Max for most of the season. I think something will happen at the very end of the show. Maybe not the very end, but a good bit into Season 5 where maybe she can snap out of it, because I'm assuming she's controlled by him either physically, mentally, or both. So not sure what's going on with her. She's probably the biggest mystery going into Season 5. So I'm going to say I'm juggling between pretty safe and moderately safe, because I really don't think she's going to die after almost dying once and then actually dying a second time and coming back to life. I don't think she will die at the end of the show, but I do think she's in a lot of danger this season. I'm going to say she's moderately safe because we don't know what's going on with her, but I would say I don't think she will die in the very end. Next, we have Karen Wheeler. I've heard some crazy theories about Karen, and I don't buy them personally. But, you know, I think she is also a pretty safe character. Don't see them spending a lot of time on a death for her. Next, we have Jonathan Byers. Jonathan, I'm going to say Jonathan is moderately safe. There have been some rough times with Nancy recently, and though it seems like Nancy's tipping a little bit back towards Steve, I could see Jonathan, who really cares about Nancy, even though he's lying to her a little bit right now about the whole college thing. He really cares about her. I could see him sacrificing himself potentially for her. And I also feel like he would be an easier character to kill off, because I do think there's going to be one or two heavy hitters that are huge main characters, and he's a very main character, but I'm just saying huge like characters that a lot of people love. Like 1 or 2 of those I think might end up going at the end of season 5. But I do think he could be like an easier character for the audience to deal with. I like Jonathan. I don't have a problem with him. But I don't hear people saying Jonathan is their favorite character ever. I
don't think I've ever heard that.
So I think it would be a little bit easier, a little bit softer cushion for his death. That's why I have him so high. Murray is the first of 3 that I am predicting will die. Murray is a great character. He brings a lot of comic relief to the show, but also a lot of skill set, especially in season 4 with his karate, that is necessary and vital to the storyline, vital to the group's advancement in their fight against the monster and their fight against the Russians in his and Joyce's circumstance. But I think he's going to die in season 5. I think he's going to get himself in a situation where it's going to bring his character arc full circle, because if you think back to where he was in season 2, this guy who didn't like to be controlled by the government whatsoever, he lived in a very secretive place, didn't want anybody knowing where he lived, anybody to know his phone number, how to contact him, how to find him. And you see in season 3, he puts himself out there more. He's fighting. He's infiltrating a Russian base with them. And now in season 4, he really comes to the forefront, really breaks out of his shell, and even shows excitement about going on these adventures. And I think his character development is maybe the most underrated in the show. And I just think it's going to come full circle with him initially never wanting to be involved in anything like this, to sacrificing himself, or maybe not like intentionally sacrificing himself, but dying in the midst of battle in season 5. I really think it could happen to Murray, unfortunately. Next character, Will Byers, who has been through a lot, and I've seen some, I haven't watched many of them, but I've seen some theory videos about how Will is going to be the most important character this season, and I could certainly see it, and I honestly hope that we do, because Will has kind of been put on the back burners ever since season 2. I mean, season 2, he was one of the best characters in the show, I think. Of course, season 1, he wasn't even in it that much because his character was lost in the Upside Down. But I think Will is in a lot of danger because of his connection with Vecna, but he is not one that I am predicting will absolutely die. I'm putting Will in not safe. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I feel like he's going to be one of like a main component that can help the team. I think Max may be the one that is like controlled by Vecna, and he is the one that can do the spying on Vecna this time and help them in their plans and help them eventually take him down. But I do think that puts him in harm's way, certainly. So I have him as a character that is not safe. Next we have Argyle. Argyle, I think, is completely safe. I don't see any scenario in which Argyle dies. I don't really see what it would do. I know some people were hotter on him as far as liking him as comedic relief. Some people didn't like him as much. I'm one who, I wasn't a big fan of Argyle, to be quite honest. But whether you liked him or not, I don't think his character has enough depth for his death to be hard-hitting. And I really just don't think it would be very tasteful to kill off his character, a guy who's just always kind of having fun, always kind of high and just going with the flow. I don't know that it would do much unless his character takes a huge unexpected turn as far as his personality and some potential courage he hasn't shown yet, but I think he's a completely safe character in season 5. Next is Erica. For Erica, I'm going to go pretty safe. I just really don't see many scenarios in which she would die in season 5. She's kind of a character that stands alone, meaning she doesn't have that one other person that she would like sacrifice her life for. Like, you know, she doesn't have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or she doesn't have the strong Dustin Steve connection, nothing like that. So I think Erica is pretty safe. Nancy, I think, is in some danger. Now, I'm not predicting that she's going to die. I don't think it will happen, but I think she's in a good amount of danger. I'm going to say she's moderately safe, so she's kind of in between. I'm just thinking back to what happened with Vecna. Vecna went into her mind and chose not to kill her. He chose to show her what she was going to do, and I'm not sure exactly what all is going on with that. The one thing I do notice is that Vecna showed her all those things that happened, and the only thing that didn't happen was Vecna killing her family yet. So I'm not really sure what that means. I'm not sure if that could mean nothing. That could really mean something. I just feel like more so than all of the characters except 11, Will, and Max, I think she has a connection with him because Vecna chose not to kill her already. So I could see something happening to Nancy. Next is Joyce Byers. Joyce, I think this season is pretty safe. I don't see many scenarios in which Joyce could die. Of course, her death would be really hard-hitting. I just don't think it's going to happen, quite honestly. So next we have Lucas Sinclair. Lucas is another one that I think is pretty safe. I'm getting a lot of pretty safes here, but I know he has the whole Max thing, but like I said earlier, I really don't think Max is going to die at the end of the season. I think she's going to be in a lot of trouble. She's going to be hurting, and Vecna's going to be doing nasty things with her mind. But I don't think it will lead to her ultimate death. The only way I could see Lucas dying potentially is maybe a situation where in order for Max to return to how she, her regular form, he does something. I don't know. I don't think Lucas is going to die. I think he's a pretty safe character. Next is Robin. Robin, I'm teetering between completely and pretty safe. I'm going to go completely. I don't want to stack up that pretty safe row too much. I don't see Robin dying. I don't see her sacrificing herself for anybody. I know she has a relationship thing going on with Vicky, but Vicky's not that intertwined with the whole, storyline of the show. So I think Robin is about as safe as you can get. Of course, anything can happen to anybody, but I don't see her being in harm's way more so than others. All right, now we have Dustin. And Dustin is the next character that I'm predicting will die. And I'm not... I know this would hurt. It would hurt me like crazy. It would hurt almost everybody who watches the show. Dustin is a fan favorite, one of the most likable characters in the show, if not the most likable. And I certainly don't want him to die. But I think... and this is just my theory, but Eddie died in Dustin's arms, and I think Steve is going to be put in situations this season where he's in high danger, and Dustin is going to have to make a choice, to see another one of his older buddies die or sacrifice himself. And I think Dustin is going to be the ultimate sacrifice this season. I think, like Murray, who I have as dying so far, I think he could die in the midst of battle. To some degree, all of these are kind of sacrifices because everybody's being brave and fighting, which I anticipate is going to happen. But I think Dustin's will be maybe the most specific sacrifice, like for an individual person saving another person's life directly. And I think it will be for Steve. It's like my boldest prediction because... obviously, Dustin's one of the most lovable, and it's like a very specific scenario that I'm predicting. But I think it makes sense. I don't think Dustin wants to see another one of his older buddies die. And I think it would be the hardest hitting death in the show, probably. There's several because there's so many lovable characters. But yeah, sorry about that one. I hope it doesn't happen. I love my boy Dustin. So now we have Mike Wheeler. Mike, I think, is moderately safe. And closer to pretty safe than going up anymore. But the reason I say he's moderately safe is because he has such a deep love for 11. And 11 is, of course, going to be in harm's way this season to the maximum. So, there's a sacrifice play that is always possible there, but I don't think it's going to happen with Mike, quite honestly. Mike is the leader. I think Mike will make it through. But I just think he has the boyfriend or girlfriend that he would most likely have to sacrifice himself for. And just like Will, I feel like he was a character that reached his peak in seasons 1 and 2 and has been on a decline since then. Even though I still like him, I see a lot of people hating on him. And he has gotten worse, but I think it's been a little overblown. But I think they could definitely bring him and Will, bring their characters back to as strong as they were before. And when your characters are really strong, the emotional pull on the death would hit harder. And I think it's possible. I wouldn't predict that it's going to happen, though. So I have him in moderately safe. Next is Steve Harrington. Steve, I also have in moderately safe. Steve is also one of the most lovable characters in the show, as I said about Dustin. I think Steve will be in harm's way, and Steve has a good relationship with so many of these people. I mean, he's the babysitter. He's Dustin's best pal. He has this budding relationship that is, the flames are catching on fire. They're rekindling again, and I could see scenarios where he could die to help, he could die to sacrifice, but obviously my prediction is that Dustin will save his life for Steve, so those two would kind of conflict. I think Steve is in danger, but he did have a big scare last season at the end of episode 6 where the bats were starting to eat away at his sides, but luckily Nancy, Robin, and Eddie came in to help. And I generally think that when people have near-death situations, they're less likely to die in the future. Not to mention that in Volume 2, they were clearly leading the audience to believe that he was going to die. They kept teasing things, and he was talking about his future, and he was saying, don't be the hero. Eddie tells him, yeah, you be the hero, Steve. So they were doing so many things, giving so many cues that he could be the death. Those are classic things in shows that foreshadow a character's death. So having said that, I think he could be more so in the clear than some other characters now. But he's always a character that's kind of at the front. He has man energy. He's going to protect his people. So that's why I think he could be in a lot of harm's way. But overall, I think Steve is moderately safe. Hopper, to be quite honest with you, I think is pretty safe. Hopper, his death was faked at the end of season 3. We all thought he was dead until that post-credit scene where it gave us a hint. We all believed it was Hopper in Russia. It was. And Hopper had, honestly, I know the whole show is kind of a near-death experience for all these characters, but he, more so than others even, had a lot of near-death experiences in season 4. Escaping, getting shot at by 10 guards at a time, literally fighting the Demogorgon one-on-one, having a Demogorgon on top of him about to eat his face. I mean, he went through so much this last season and even at the end of the season before. And I just don't think that they're going to pull a character like that back into a situation where he's going to die. I mean, he'll be in life-threatening situations this season. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on it, though, especially being that they already faked his death so hard. So, yeah, I think Hopper's pretty safe this season. And the last character I have here is 11. I think 11 is going to die. I think 11 is going to be the third and final death of the show. It'd be a very sad death. I mean, I think she's one of the most iconic characters in recent television. She started it all. She may have to end it all by sacrificing herself. And that would certainly be the ultimate sacrifice the sacrifice that would save her friend group, the sacrifice that would save the world. And 11 has shown in so many situations, even in the face of evil people, evil creatures, she has always had a good moral compass, I feel, and she will certainly sacrifice herself if necessary for her friends, the people who have accepted her all these years, who have brought her the most joy in her entire life. I think she would make that sacrifice with no problem. I mean, not with no problem, but I think if it needs to be done, she will do it. And I think it's going to happen. I think that's going to be part of the conclusion of the show. So yeah, my 3 characters that I think are going to die are Murray, Dustin, and 11. I think Will could certainly die. He's up there. I think of anybody in the moderately safe section, I think Nancy is in the most danger. And of anybody down here, if I could see like a wild card being thrown in that someone could die, I'm really not sure. Maybe Joyce, but like I said, I have them in these categories for a reason. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll have more content similar to this coming. I'm going to be doing a lot of Stranger Things content at first, but I will do videos on other shows. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.